Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of the Raise the Roof Facebook Live series. My name is Seth Nesbitt, and I'm the CRO over here at Zuper. And I am thrilled to be joined by none other than Adam Sand, the founder and CEO and rogue from Canada. Adam Sand, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, Seth. It's good to be here. I don't know if many people know where Kelowna is, but there is it's a relatively small city in BC, but we actually got some pretty good presence up here. We got the guy who started White Claw and Mike started Lemonade, but also Dan Martell, who's kind of famous in the AI world, and then this little relatively unknown guy named Adam Sands. So excited to be here, and hope I can bring some value to the room, and people can walk away with something that helps them.
If you have not been, it is a beautiful place on the lakes. Gorgeous up there, gorgeous. Well, listen, Adam, we like to start every Raise the Roof series with a couple questions, same questions. First one is, how's business?
It's good. Lots of exciting things happening in the roofing industry right now. Volatility brings opportunity for everyone, and we tend to be we've got a lot of access to what's going on, so we can help navigate that volatility for our clients, and that tends to bring value to what we do.
Great, great. And this is for a lot of people, this is the time, season's winding down, get a little bit of planning in. So I know you're busy. I know you're busy. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Next question is, what are you hearing out there? What are you hearing on the street?
Well, I mean, everybody is kind of wondering what 2026 will bring. 2025, there's a lot of debate about, are we up? Are we down? Like, what happened in 2025? And I think there's excitement and anxiety around 2026, particularly around labor issues, and everybody's wondering how, will AI have an impact on the roofing industry? Like, people are wondering if that's, like, they're scrambling to figure out what it means. It's new.
Yeah, the big topic everywhere, and in roofing as well. Last thing, is there someone on your team you want to give a shout out? You're the CEO and founder, and you wear the hat, and you get to be on the webinars. But none of us are here without a big team helping us. Is there anyone in particular on the RBB team you'd like to call out?
Well, everybody who tends to come on your shows does the politically correct thing of thank the whole team, and I can always thank the whole team. But considering the content is about Zuper, I really have to thank Dave, because he is knee deep in Zuper mania right now, and he has a lot of pressure on his back, and he deserves a round of applause for what he's up against, retooling our entire company.
Oh, wow. Well, listen, big shout out to Dave. I know he's talking to Zuper folks every day. We're really, really excited. Yeah, there we are, Dave.
My man.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Give a big shout out to Dave on Facebook. Well, listen, you are a partner. RBP is a partner, and we've got a lot of partners. Zuper's got technology partners like HubSpot. We've got implementation partners, all supplier partners. But you guys are a special kind of partner. You're an implementation partner for us, and a consulting partner. How did we get started? Where did we first kind of? It actually, I think it predated me. Where was the connection between Zuper and RBP?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. I kind of went back and looked at it prior to this episode, and in 2022 was the first time we saw Zuper in the App Store of HubSpot, and we went and looked at it, and we introduced ourselves. We met a guy named Josh, and we kind of met with the sales team and looked a little bit. We met the Zuper dev team at Inbound later that year, kind of at the crossover of the year, and then we kind of kept a close eye on the product. We paid attention to the announcements, and I got a spelling error in there. And then we saw the Super AI launch, and that was when I reached back out to Josh and to kind of establish, like, hey, this is pretty exciting. And we had some changes in the industry that kind of prompted us to be looking, and so we wanted to discuss what it would look like to be a partner. And in 2026, we're hoping to be the number one Zuper partner, like we've done for every other tool we work with.
Oh, I love that. No, and it's been a great journey. And one thing I will say about you, Adam, is you are really thoughtful about tools out there. You're always researching. Every conversation I've had, you kind of have this. You're always like a front runner. You're out sort of looking at the next thing coming. And so the fact that we were on your radar for a while just makes a ton of sense. To close out this section, we have been working together for a bit. We do have some joint customers who are working on. How's it going so far?
Yeah, I mean, right now it is the process of, not only are we converting customers over to Zuper, but we're converting our entire company over to Zuper. And this is something that requires us to think about our marketing materials. It requires us to think about our processes for onboarding a client. Then we have to build SOPs. So the delivery right now is kind of a lot of figure it out time. Like, how is this different? How do we approach this differently? What can we improve? What can we make better? What new opportunities come when Zuper is essentially consolidating 3 tools that we used to recommend, which is, I mean, we'll get into that later, but I mean, it's a massive opportunity for us and for our customers. And so we view the relationship as a partner as kind of like 4 parts, where we have our relationship with Zuper, and your job is kind of building building the product, right? Continuing to make it better, securing, strong customers that can influence others, building up the affiliates and really and referral partners, and building a strategy to help make us as partners successful through great support and continuous evolution of the product. Which I got to say, Zuper is, I mean, I don't know if it's probably 50% the crazy culture that Anon has built in Rogov, and then 50% you can now use AI to code, and you guys aren't sitting there with all this technical debt from prior builds that you
So
guys.
for people who don't know, you just mentioned the name of our CEO and our CTO. Yeah, crazy culture, really fast development. Keep going,
Really,
keep going. That was
yeah,
good. Yeah.
you guys are like total yes men right now when it comes to like, hey, it should have this, hey, it should have that. And you move quickly. Like, I remember we're technology implementation partners for, half a dozen softwares. And sometimes it takes 3 months, 6 months, a year to get something. And you guys, it's 3 months or 3 weeks and 6 weeks. And that might feel like forever for some people, but from our experience, it is crazy fast. The other part of that relationship really comes down to the client, right? They have to understand what their needs are, and they have to communicate their goals in such a way that we can understand them, so that we can build the products they need. But then once we build it, we have a saying: the tool doesn't matter as much as the process, and the
Hmm.
process doesn't matter as much as adoption. So they do have a responsibility to learn and adopt the tools, which means we have to align with great leaders who can lead their team through change management. I mean, change management, there's university courses on it. There are,
Mhm.
high-powered consulting firms who focus purely on change management. And the world is changing. You have to change. And the only way you can change is you got to commit to it. So the leaders have to change and adopt through it. Now, where we come in as an implementation partner is we have to train a team of experts internally. We have to be a resource that not only understands our industry, the software, but the business of roofing, and be able to provide context behind functions and features that actually delivers outcomes and results. And then we have to support in that change management. We have to know how to do things preemptively that later on will benefit the client in their change management process. And quite often when people buy software, we hear from them and they say, oh, we're using about 20% of what X, Y, or Z software can do. So we have to build for every feature, even if the customer doesn't want it, because we have to know how to take advantage of every square inch of that software, and then support that adoption, short, medium, and long term. But at the center of everything, and how we view it when we're doing this, is at the center of everything, it's the homeowner. Our customer, the roofing company, they're in the business of trying to get the homeowner to choose them over a competitor. And our job is to make it so that homeowners choose them more often, and they get the benefit of having chosen the client that we have, the client that you have, the roofing company. So yeah.
I love that, having the homeowner at the center, and we'll definitely put in the show notes the clip of Anand telling the story. He just recently, and that's out on Facebook. I love how you set that up. The 3 players playing together. Let's take Zuper out of it for now. Let's actually take a step back and take RBP out of it, and talk about, because this podcast is all about tools and tool selection and how do you choose a vendor. Remove the current players we're talking about. How do roofers normally find their CRM vendor or a different vendor for their for their business?
Well, to kind of address that question, it's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. To kind of address it, we have to kind of get to the root of why do they shop for software in the first place, and kind of coalescing around this concept of a CRM. We have to find out why their software failed in the first place. And so there's kind of 5 pieces that I talk about, which is they lack adoption, the CRM becomes fragile, then there's a lack of prioritization around training and implementation. they don't get good support from the vendor, and then their data is inaccurate. And when this happened, and this is usually based because they do project-based implementation. They implement it and then they like check the box and think it's done. But what happens is they go into this what I call the CRM doom loop, which is where they go through an implementation phase where everybody's excited about the software. Then they go through an 18 to 24 month period of decreasing usage, at which point they then go, oh, this sucks. And they go into the CRM shopping phase, which usually starts right around now, November through March, when the roofing industry kind of slows down. And then to answer your question more directly, how do they find a software? They find it in a very stupid way. They go on Facebook and ask questions like this. They say, hey, what's CRM? And these posts, I mean, I obviously have a bias to watch, and this is like 1 week. You know what I mean? This is 1 week of seeing that. I've seen this question get asked every 17 hours once over the course of 4 days. And what happens is these responses are full of bias. They're full of ill-informed people. You have no idea what that roofing company does. Like, do they do insurance? Do they do commercial? Are they big? Are they small? I've seen people recommend a different CRM every year, and people, you don't leave your, how do I say this right? Mistakes love a rush decision. You don't leave the direction of your business up to a vote on Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's why roofing companies tend to go through this phase. And it's over and over and over again. Like, I see it every year. I'm in the business of supporting it. It's good for me, that this happens, because every year I get another at bat as people progressively learn. And so what they do is then they evaluate softwares based on the websites and the group vote. And I don't know if we want to get into the websites just yet, but sometimes
we'll get to like websites and that comparison stuff in a second. Finish this up. I want to ask you about kind of your best practices steps, but finish this up.
I think that before we get into the evaluation of the availability software, you have to know where you are in your business, because sometimes you're trying to solve the right problem with the wrong solution. Because like in the $0 to $3 million range, you're just figuring out what you do. You're finding service market fit. And then from 3 to 8 million, systems play a role, but you're really trying to replicate the process that got you to 3 million and duplicate the human DNA that got you there, because now this is love and trust. This is where you have to start to build a team. Now, in your process creation, you need systems to support it. From 8 to 15 million, the systems don't always actually have as big of an impact. You're really at that point getting to the point where you have to focus on core leadership because the team is outgrowing you, where systems become the most important thing. If you got there, you need to now figure out how to automate it, because otherwise you're throwing people at problems, and then your revenue per employee just balloons out of control. And so, I can keep going, but I think the audience is mostly going to stick with it here. But we've actually did a big study to figure out what the failure rates were of companies at these various stages and what the problems were. And that's how we kind of took this popularized concept of breakpoints and actually put something to it. And so a big thing is looking at your business before you even start evaluating software, looking at your business and finding out, how did your doom loop start? And I can tell you, if you're in the room, I encourage you to put a comment in the chat. If you walked through this path, if you're on this doom loop path, if you've witnessed it in your business, because just the self-awareness, I think, helps a lot of people. Because the first thing you do is you hire an admin, right? Which becomes your CRM babysitter. Then your CRM software, something gets an update. They add a new feature or something, and then things start to break because you didn't prioritize adapting to the software. You kind of have a set it and forget it mindset. So then your reports in the CRM stop being accurate. So in comes the rogue spreadsheets, which are like the death of a CRM, when everybody starts managing the business in some rogue spreadsheet that no one knows about. I've done migrations on $40 million companies where they had 7 spreadsheets, and we knew we had to migrate the data. And then once we got into it, we found 17 more. And so there's an issue where then the new users don't get proper training because half the people don't know how the CRM works. So even the spreadsheets end up getting bad data because people garbage in, garbage out. And then there's no documentation on the process. And as the process changes, the CRM doesn't change. And so because of that, the CRM doesn't line up with our training, and you have these 7 deadly costs, right? Rogue spreadsheets, adoption drops, you get data accuracy fusion, and then you have new questions that you want to answer with software. So you buy a bunch of softwares and they become these shadow app silos where you have data hidden in all these places. you start to have new requirements. And so then you go to this all-in-one CRM dreamland where now you start shopping the website looking for boxes to be checked. And it's a recipe for disaster. You're trying to find feature parity, right? And that's where roofers now have a broken evaluation criteria. If you understand the doom loop, then you can try and design your evaluation criteria to go a layer 2 or 3 deeper in your evaluation to make sure you're not just trying to find a software that checks a box, but understand how does it check that box.
Let's talk about that. And this was one of the things when we were thinking about what to chat about here. You and I were having a discussion at one point, and you said it's so important to point out to people that there may be a feature that one vendor has, and I think we were talking about automation, automation, and on their website or on a data sheet or something, it'll say automation, and there may be another vendor with automation as well, and people are looking for that feature parity to say, oh, they have it, and they'll sort of go down this checklist of who's got what. But there can be a gaps there, and why don't you talk about that and what the real implication is for a roofing company?
Yeah, I knew you would ask that question because it was a big epiphany for a lot of the people I talked to at Zuper when we were talking about this. Because some of the people at Zuper were saying like, well, how do we compare to these other softwares? And I was like, well, when you look at it, yeah, you're going to see like in their website, it's going to say things like automation or something like that. And one of the examples I pulled out was like, well, yeah, like Job Nimbus has automation. I said, yeah, but have you seen it? Like when you go into the automation, you pick a drop down of a trigger, and then you have to like kind of pick a search, and it's a different screen depending on which one you pick. And then you have to like, when you're done, you end up with like a table with this like text in it, and that's your automation. There's no visual workflow builder. You can't create like branch criteria. You can't like not all workflow builders are created the same. And so the box is checked from the website search. So when you go on ChatGPT and say, hey, does this software what softwares have automation? These boxes will be checked, but you have to go a layer deeper in your evaluation to say, how do you do automation? What would that look like for me? Because then you start to talk about integration, right? Because automation leads to integration. And you'll see, oh, it integrates with software X or software Y. But is that integrating through Zapier? Is it a native integration that defines what data is allowed to go back and forth? Is it a one-way? Like when you create a contact in the CRM, it creates a contact in QuickBooks. But if you change the name of the contact in the CRM or QuickBooks, does it send the data back? That would be a bidirectional sync. And is it bidirectional sync that stays synced, or is it just it can send data each way based on a trigger? Is it an API or is it Zapier? You know what I mean? Like
I love this example. Let's, for everyone on the call, and we're getting a lot of comments, and I love this. Take it one step up because you are a guy sort of down in the weeds. What does this mean for an owner? This sounds like wasted time. This sounds like frustration, substandard processes. Just take the automation example. So one company, Zuper, has a beautiful visual workflow, branching, logic driven, drag and drop. And then there's some other challenges, or pick any example. What's the real business impact of this?
Yeah, I mean, I can even talk about this in terms of why we switched to Zuper. So previous to this, we were integrating, like we have HubSpot CRMs, and our clients tend to be bigger that have a heavy marketing impact and complicated buyer's journeys. And we really take advantage of a lot of what HubSpot has to offer. But to deliver these incredible buying experiences for homeowners, 4 years ago, there wasn't one software that would deliver on this. Like you needed a great proposal software. And at first you only had Sumo Quote. Leap kind of followed. Roofers, like, the copycat of the industry, the Temu version of everything. And so you had these other tools kind of pop up. But then we also needed a great field service management, something with checklists and the ability to, have that last mile delivery Uber experience. But then we also had to take photos, and Arrivia wasn't great at photos, but CompanyCam was excellent with it. So you needed the way to annotate the photos and share a timeline link. And so we had to integrate these 3 softwares, and they all say integrate, automate, this kind of stuff. But there was this middle piece of software like a Zapier or a make.com that we had. And what that meant was that there was a maze of things, like every time the API changes, every time the features change, every time the user interface changes, that would break things. And then owners would have stuff break. And they don't want to be a full-time RevOps shop maintaining their own integrations, and they can't visually see where it's breaking because A third of their automation is happening in an integration platform. And we had to constantly debate, do we give them the make account and have them break it all the time and have two-factor authentication to get in? Or do we manage the make account and then charge them for the workflows? And so really what this comes down to is the dream of like, I want to take advantage of the best tools, but I need a single source of truth that is the record of everything that happened with this customer. Those two things collide because sometimes they can't take advantage of a tool's best feature. What I love about Zuper is you have a fully featured visual workflow builder with HTTP requests. We can use it like make.com, which is the same thing we can do in HubSpot. So when we build something for a customer, the automation is either in HubSpot or in Zuper. There's no third-party tool. And so when something breaks, everybody can see it and everybody can see what we did to fix it. But then what you get, like the outcome for the owner is leverage, right? It's all about creating leverage. We want to increase the revenue per employee that roofing companies make. And the bare minimum is 600. Like if you want your writer downer of the day as a roofing company, you need to look at your annual payroll. Now's a perfect time. Divide that annual payroll by 85,000. Multiply that number. So if you have 850,000 in payroll, you have 10 capitas, 10 units, and you multiply that number, and that's including commission. So you multiply by that number, 650,000, and you should have 6.5 million in revenue. So the revenue per capita tells you if you're throwing people at problems or systems and processes at problems. And our number is 700 to 900. That's what we target with our clients. And when we achieve that, what happens is freedom for the business owner.
Go expand on that. What does freedom for the business owner look like? It may look like different things for different people. Ability to grow.
No, I would, in my experience, every roofer when they're done, they want to buy a farm. I don't know what it is. They want they all end up with livestock. I don't know what it is. Maybe Yellowstone did it, but like but freedom looks like in the business. It looks like they can, when there's a problem, they know exactly where to look to find what happened. And they can bring it up in their level 10 meeting, identify the root cause, discuss the solution, and then assign a to-do to either RBP or their own team to fix the thing and incrementally improve the business over time to create that leverage with everything that we can. If there's a 5-minute task, right, that is high impact, low value, happens intermittently, and has a high consequence for a problem, and involves disparate systems, it's a perfect opportunity to automate that 5-minute thing away. And every time you do that, you increase the impact of that one employee. You make that employee's day better. So it transforms into retention. You want to build a great culture. A great culture comes from people being empowered and able to progress without the mundane copy paste life of moving data back and forth.
Great. Anything else you want to say about, we're sort of wrapping up here at the end. Anything you want to say about, software selection, your journey to, sort of finding Zuper, the benefits of slowing down and really looking at this feature parity? What haven't we covered you'd like to take a look at?
I mean, like when you Google like the failure rate of CRMs, it's anywhere between 50 and 70% of companies that switch their CRMs consider that switch a failure. And the consequence of that is high. As a roofer, you don't make the shingles that you install. You don't stock usually the shingles that you install. You don't deliver the shingles that you install. You don't install the shingles that you install. You sell and market them. And your systems need to support that. And if you're not building systems that drive revenue per capita, you will always feel like you're chasing something. And so the cost of implementing software far outweighs the cost of doing it wrong. In roofer language, if you thought hiring a good roofer is expensive, try hiring a bad one. Well, the same thing goes. If you thought buying a good software was expensive, try implementing a bad one, because that will cost way more.
Words of wisdom. Well, listen, we've been going about 25 minutes here, and we're on the backside. I'd like to end with just one final thing. We are at the end of the year, and as I mentioned at the beginning, you're a guy who always kind of looking ahead, keeping an eye on the next thing. What predictions do you have for the 2026 ahead? Stay out of politics, stay out of anything else, but in the roofing space, what do you see, and what are your predictions? Economic predictions. Leave all that stuff out. What are you seeing in roofing?
I mean, in roofing specifically, I think that you're going to continue. Well, the thing that I think that you're going to see a constant drive towards. Actually, this is what I'll say. The large PE-backed roofing companies are working on direct repair options that are very, very formidable. I've been a part of these builds and these discussions, and a post just came out yesterday where a homeowner filed a claim and they had already signed a contingency, and the response to the claim was an email from a particular roofing company, and the comment was, "How are we going to compete?" And I messaged the owner of that company. I was like, "Oh, look at you ruffling feathers," and he said, "That's going to be the name of the game for the next little bit."
Hmm.
So all the insurance companies are moving towards working with these large national companies. And if you don't have a strong retail game, if you don't have a strong customer service game, and if you can't drive high revenue per capita, you will have troubled waters ahead.
Yeah. Hey, get this. This is the time. This is the season. Pick up the phone, call Adam, please. Feel free. Check out Zuper.co and get on it, because that now is the time to be looking at that. Adam, I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate the partnership, and yeah, just sharing your ideas and your wisdom here with the wider group. We'll be sure to have you back on again. And if I don't talk to you, have a great weekend, and we'll see everyone on the next one.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.
Thanks all.